Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us to this webinar where we will answer the question how to make your proposal attractive. So we will be two speakers. So myself, I'm Miriam Frocher. I'm a senior consultant at Ayming since 10 years now, working on the setting up of collaborative projects, many European ones.
Hello, my name is Pauline Chamarboudet. I'm working at Ayming for 2 years now, and I'm also a consultant for European projects. So today we will introduce you to the best practices for a proposal. So first of all, we would like you to have a look at these two chocolates. So on your left side, you have chocolate bars, and on the right side, you have a chocolate box. And I would like you to answer the following question. Which one do you prefer? And which one will you offer to someone you care about? And this is really something that you need to keep in mind when writing your proposal. Even if the raw materials of the chocolate bar and the chocolate box is exactly the same, it's the way you present it will really have an influence on the person you give it to. So this is exactly the philosophy you need to adopt when writing a proposal. And we will today answer the question how we go from the chocolate bar to a nice box of chocolates.
So when you write a proposal, your objective is to get it funded. But the question is how. So we will present you one of the key elements, but there are several key success factors for proposals. One is the cutting edge science. Another one is a complete value chain with strong industrial involvement. Third one is sound implementation. The fourth one is huge socio-economic impact. And the fifth one is effective dissemination, communication, and exploitation plans. But as you see, if you present all these key success factors this way, this is not really attractive. You can just by changing the way you explain things and you propose this to the reviewer, make it more easy and attractive is one of the key success factors for the success of a proposal, and we will today focus on this. But please remember that this is only one aspect, and you cannot have a proposal funded with only a good story. You should have all these elements, making in a way that this is a good story for the reviewer. So first quiz, how much time does a reviewer have to evaluate a project? You can answer lively. So we have 4 choices, which are a few minutes, a few hours, a few days, and a few weeks. So please tick the answer you think is the right one. We'll let you a few seconds to do this. And now we will we'll share the results. So 44% say a few hours, 44% say a few days. Obviously, it's not a few minutes or a few weeks, but it's rather a few hours than a few days. That's why this is really important. You cannot read all 70 pages in a few hours. So it's important to think about how your proposal should look like to be positively evaluated within these few hours by your evaluator. So first point is obvious, but still is useful to remind, is that you should fulfill eligibility conditions. So you should make a relevant project corresponding to the call, and you should have the structure in accordance with the European Commission templates and the expectations. But another important point is that you should convince your reader about the interest of your project. So you should propose a proposal that is unique, memorable, and easy to read. And this is only if you are at the cross section between these both elements that you can optimize your probability of success. So now we will detail 3 best practices. The first one is that you should make the reader endorse your opinion. So you should involve your reader. When writing the proposal, you should not ask yourself what you want to say, but you should ask yourself what your reader wants to read. And you should find the best compromise between these both points, but always put yourself as if you were the reader. If I were the reader, would that be convinced by these elements? If your answer is no, then don't put this in your proposal, because this might be a shortcoming and not a positive element. So another point is that you should install a confident atmosphere. This means that you should give details, not too many, not to lose the reader, but details that install a confident atmosphere and that makes the reader trust yourself, because this is one really important point when you read a proposal. You should also raise common memories. So for example, a film, a book, if you want to transform food waste into biofuels, you can raise, for example, Back to the Future, because almost everybody has seen this movie and see the scene of this film. And the fourth point is that you should use we. So because it proves the reviewer that it involves yourself, and if you say we believe, then he sees that the partners and yourself are really committed. So now the second best practice.
So you should, in order to facilitate the reader's work, you should ease the reading and the understanding. So don't hesitate to tinkle the reader's curiosity, and to do that, do not hesitate to ask questions within the proposal. Another thing which is really useful is to use bullet lists. Actually, this is really visual, and it really helps, especially for the objectives of your project. And then something that is really efficient also is to make it possible to follow your idea through the titles of your subsections. I give you an example here. So here you have the Edge 2020 template that you may already know. So where you introduce your proposal with the excellence, where you present your objectives, the relation to the work plan, your concept and methodology, your ambition, where we can find the state of the art. Then you go with the impact, expected impacts, the measure to maximize them, and then you explain how you will, so the work plan, the work packages, the management structure, consortium, and resources to be committed with your budget. So, but here we propose you to use a customized template. So here, for example, instead of the excellence, I chose the example of the car of tomorrow. And in the objective, I just wrote, let's develop an hybrid, silent, and autonomous car. For the relation to the work plan, we can say using an approach based on the European needs. For the concept and methodology, you can say that our approach is based on hybrid motors, acoustic studies, and artificial intelligence. And in the ambition, we just say that we will go beyond the current technological limitations. For the impact, we directly start with a car that will change our lives. And we directly explain the different impacts that are, for example, less CO2 emission, the decrease of acoustic pollutions, saving people's lives thanks to the autonomous aspects, and allowing as well business generation and job creation. And then you explain how you will do that. So you introduce your team, your procedure, and you show how your team is complementary. And then for the resources, you explain that your project is only feasible through the European funding. So here the point is that you haven't read the proposal of this project. You have no idea of the team, of anything. But through the titles, you already know about the science, about the excellence of the consortium, about the impact of the project, only through the titles.
And so the first best practice is that you should write your proposal to be remembered. After the evaluation, evaluator evaluates many projects in several days, and then they go to the consensus meeting. And if they don't remember your project, then they won't be able to defend it. So this is important to give them clues to remember your project. And so to this, you should make your project unique. So you should create a framework. So saying who, when, why, why it would be useful, whom will it be, whose interest will it deserve. This is important. You should also make it easy to read and to understand. So explain clearly the mission you are going to accomplish, and to this aim only develop one idea per paragraph, not making too long sentences. Making schemes also, but I will come back to this later on. This is really important, that your proposal has a good look, a good shape, in order to ease the reading and understanding of your evaluator. And the third point, really important, is to use artwork, pictures, and diagrams, because as Napoleon Bonaparte said, a good sketch is better than a long speech, and usually you remember the good sketches you saw, whilst the text is most of the time forgotten. So the second quiz is, as a person, how do you best remember a message? And so the choices are through an oral communication, through a picture or drawing, by watching a video, or through a descriptive text. So we let you a few seconds to answer. And now we will share the results.
So we can see that 33% of you remember best a message through an oral communication, and the majority, 67%, through a picture of a drawing. We have no one by a video and no one through a descriptive text. But as you know, in the context of a proposal, of a scientific proposal, you only have the mean of a descriptive text. You can't use a video, you can't use an oral communication. So as knowing that it is not the best way to convey a message, to remember a message, we will help you to be remembered through a descriptive text. And to do that, we suggest you to learn about the storytelling.
So why should you consider storytelling? So the first point is that the human brain has limited concentration time. So studies show that only a few minutes, we can stay concentrated only a few minutes, and it is not possible to read all the proposal within a few minutes. So this is important to give clue to the reviewer while he is really concentrated on your proposal, in order that he can remember this. Also, human memory is story-based. We all remember stories that our parents read to us a long time ago. So this proves the easy way to remember stories. Also, making a story helps us to link information to emotion and to best remember it, and also to clarify complex information. Another point is that the story can be recalled. If somebody tells you a story, then if it is well understood, most of the time you are able to recall it to another people, which is important because during the consensus meeting, the evaluator can recall your story to the others in order to convince them that your proposal should be funded. And finally, the scheme of a story works for all kinds of culture. So wherever you come from, the same story, for example, Cinderella, speaks to everybody.
So what is storytelling? So storytelling can be divided into 3 parts. So first you have the takeoff, then the turbulences, and finally the touchdown. So to take the example of Cinderella, the takeoff is the following. So Cinderella lives with her stepmother and stepsisters, from whom she's mishandled by, and she's doing all the hard work at home. And suddenly she receives an invitation to the ball. And she's prevented from going, but then the fairy godmother helps her to go, and she has to leave at midnight, and so on and so on. And then the touchdown. So the prince finally finds her thanks to her slipper, they get married and live happily ever after. So now you see how a story works, but how can you apply it to a proposal, to a scientific proposal? So here is an example. So in the takeoff, you can just write the general information. So it can be your abstract, for example. You can introduce a member of the consortium, speak about the current limitations, and then you will show your work plan. You will introduce the different risks, your mitigation plan, other limitations, the impact of your project, and so on. And then the touchdown will be the budget you require, the administrative data, the ethic and security aspects, and the appendix.
So as for every story, you should also identify the main characters of your proposal. So for a good story, you need a project leader, a kind of hero, and the staff. You will also need people impacted by the project. You should detail to whom it will be useful, who will be touched by your project directly and also indirectly. And finally, you should also involve the funders, because the funders, for a successful proposal, they should feel involved in all the proposal, and they should have the impression that without them and their action, the story cannot happen. So
here is an example of a H2020 project that is carried by the X-Men, for example. So you are the coordinator, so you are Professor X, and this is your team with all the mutants, your consortium. So your objective is simple. You want to defend the humanity against attacks, and your excellence is your superpowers. But you have a big limitation, which is Magneto here, and the impact of your project will be to save the humanity. So you have a work plan. So your first work package is to train the mutants, and the work package 2 is the plan A. And you also have risk management. So your main risk is to fail, and the risk level is pretty high. And you have a mitigation plan, plan B. But you also need resources to realize your project. So you need labs, you need suits, you need equipment, you need you will have travel costs, communication costs, and so on. So in order for the X-Men to save the humanity, you clearly need funding from the H2020, from the European Commission. And if you introduce your project just like this, just like a mission from the X-Men, we are pretty sure that the European Commission will remember your project. So here are the sum up of the key elements to write an attractive proposal to conclude here. So you need to write to convince specialists and non-specialists. So you need to keep your speech really simple. You need to choose easily understandable terms, and when you are in doubt, to simplify at the maximum. You need to strategize around your win theme, so around your excellence. You need to get to the point really quickly in order not to lose your reader. You need to use clear language and prioritize shorter sentences. You need to use also colors, good format, pictures, anything that can wake up the reader. Demonstrate your leadership, your innovation in order to bring the wow effect, and provide supporting evidence and facts that show your impact and excellence of your research. And don't forget to really write in order to be remembered. So now we will go to the question time. So if you want to ask us some question, you will find a box dedicated to that on the bottom right of your screen. So don't hesitate to ask us any question you may have on this presentation. So we have one first question. So when should the storytelling be set up?
So the storytelling should be set up from the beginning. You should think as your project as a story from the beginning, because it's much more easy than to present. And if you start writing not in this way, it will be much more difficult for you to come back. So also, when you are looking for a partner, presenting your project as a story can convince them to go in. So the answer is from the beginning of the writing. And now we have a 7th question. So what is the time needed to set up a project with the element described in the webinar? So Pauline?
I would say that actually it doesn't require more time that you spend usually writing your proposal. I would say on the opposite actually, because I think if you use the storytelling to explain your project, actually you will really clearly see the information that is required, and you will not go within details, and actually you can win a lot of time doing that, save a lot of time. So we don't have other question. So thank you everybody for participating to this webinar. And if you have other question later, don't hesitate to contact either Miriam or myself. So you have our email address on your screen right now.
And yes, the slide will be sent to you this afternoon. So please do not hesitate to come back to us for any question. And thanks a lot. Have a nice day.